I have collected 6 different quotes from 3 different stories, and guys, nobody likes Kingsley Suamataia. I do. I think you should. But we're going to go through some of these different quotes here and try to talk ourselves off of the cliff that is the left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. From Arrowhead Pride Snap Counts article, left tackle Wanya Morris, 34%, played 13 offensive snaps to start the game before being injured early in the second quarter. He returned for the fourth quarter's final 9 offensive plays. Interestingly, he came out for a second quarter extra point and a third quarter field goal. This suggests that the team wanted to see how Kingsley Suamataia would do in an extended look. Guys, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to quietly accept what I am saying. You don't have to look at things the way that I do. For 3 years now, I have come on here and said the Chiefs are practicing on Sundays. And they are. The fact that Wanya Morris went down and the Chiefs said, we're going to make you pretend that you're hurt for a little bit longer than you are. We're going to wheel you out there for a couple extra points and stuff. But when we really need it, we're going to put you back on the field. Means exclusively and only that they were using that time to try to get Kingsley Suamataia some reps during live fire against a speed rusher like Nick Benito, which we knew Kingsley Suamataia was going to have problems against when he came into the league before he was ever drafted. That is what pushed him down to the second round. Now, this is utterly phenomenal to basically get confirmation on, because what it means is we've kind of had these suspicions at least all this season, right? Well, the offense is kind of bad, but really good on third downs when they have to have it. The games are closer than I would like, but they keep ending with the Chiefs having more points than the other team. They keep ending with the other team, maybe they're only down 5 points, but they're never in position to win the game. All sorts of ways this team can experiment and tinker with things in the meantime. And we saw a perfect example just last season what happened. Patrick Mahomes was not a running quarterback last year. Until the playoffs started, the entire offense clicked, the entire offense kicked into gear, and the entire offense was stunning through 4 playoff games and a Super Bowl championship. Where was that the rest of the year? Oh, they didn't have to have it. So they didn't. It's just one of those things. It's absolutely crazy to look at. The Kansas City Chiefs are treating the regular season like an NBA team. We're going to work on some things. Hopefully we get some wins. Be really nice to have the 1 seed. But when it all comes down to it, they don't count until they count. From Film Review, Chiefs offensive line struggled in win versus the Broncos. This is from Arrowhead Pride. Playing Suamataia runs the risk of getting someone hurt on his team. This is not the end of the line for him, but this is not his time. With such a critical position on the field in question with the injury to Morris, it would not be a shock if the Chiefs looked to bring in veteran help on the left side of the line to end the season. I think that's so. This here, that's a little bit dramatic for me. The whole you're going to get somebody hurt business, but I do think that it is it is understandable at this point if the Kansas City Chiefs do decide to bring in veteran leader. Here's the thing. Were the circumstances not as they are, if the Chiefs had not won the past 2 Super Bowls, I don't think I would agree with this. If the Chiefs were not, and I don't think the Chiefs' Super Bowl window is closing, I'm just making an example. If the Chiefs were not in the position where a Super Bowl window were closing, I don't agree with this. The fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are in position to do something that has never been done before makes me a little bit agree with this. So, moving on to this next quote here. From the final piece of the Chiefs' three-peat puzzle is basically begging Kansas City to sign him. Donovan Smith won a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2023, starting 12 games in Kansas City. Prior to his Chiefs days, Smith was a staple of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line, winning another Lombardi trophy with Tom Brady. Smith showcased interest in re-signing with the Chiefs via his social media post earlier this week. Here's what Andy Reid had to say about the prospect of Smith returning. Listen, that's in Veach's area. I mean, he looks at everything, so I'm not going to say no, but what we do as coaches, and we overemphasize, is we're going to focus on these kids that are here, said Reid. They're getting better. I know it's hard to see at times, but there's progress being made, and we're going to be okay as we go forward. You are welcome to not believe Andy Reid. You're welcome to say that he's lying to cover up for his guys. It'd be understandable. I don't think it's necessarily true. I think that these guys, look, it was always going to be a hard out for Wanya Morris and or Kingsley Suamataia versus Nick Benito. Just the guys, I think he's a 4-4 guy, right? He ran am I wrong that he ran a 4.44 or a 4.43 40? Something like that, something absolutely wild like that, absolutely mad. That was going to be a difficult out for both of these guys who are power tackles. Would that have been an easier game for Donovan Smith? I don't know. We saw an awful lot of Donovan Smith last year, and guys, I don't know. I don't remember anyone particularly railing for his return this past offseason. I don't remember it then. Now, it's easy to say, yeah, but that's before we saw what we had in Wanya and Kingsley. True enough. But I also know what we were saying. I also am privy to the conversations that were being had on Twitter when it was Donovan Smith. So I think that and this is so it's going to sound like I'm glazing Brett Veach. Guys, left tackles, real left tackles, true left tackles, very rare. You're certainly almost never going to have the opportunity to draft them at 32 overall. So, if you want a true left tackle, quit winning Super Bowls. Does that sound like a fair trade? Or would you rather be guessing whether or not you want to see Kingsley Suamataia or Wanya Morris on the left side of the line come Sunday? I know it sounds reductionist to say that it is that simple. It is. It is that simple. Guys, there's holes at wide receiver. Yeah, it's hard to find wide receivers. Look at the bust rate on wide receivers. Phenomenal. You draft a wide receiver, you're almost guaranteed to get a guy who never catches more than 30 balls in a season. Just the way it goes. Just the way it goes. You draft a left tackle, you're probably going to find a really big guy who's a pretty good athlete. But you have to be a really big guy who is a confusingly good athlete in order to be a good left tackle at the NFL level. Those guys are rare. You can point to the fact that defensive tackle, very rare. Very rare to find a guy who's an actual defensive tackle as opposed to a great big man who can move a little bit. We've got Derek Nottie, right? Keandre Coburn. I've already forgotten his name, right? Drafted him just the prior draft. Chris Jones is very rare. Oh, but scrambling. Chris Jones was not a first rounder. Yeah, and if anybody knew he was going to be Chris Jones, he would have been top 5. He wouldn't have been top 10. He wouldn't have been top 15. He'd have been top 5 in basically any draft you can imagine. It is rare to find these players, and often they are found on accident. That's why you have to keep trying. That's why Kingsley Suamataia and Wanye Morris will not be the last tackles that Brett Veach drafts in the 2nd and 3rd round. So do I think that the Kansas City Chiefs have to bring in Donovan Smith? I don't. Would I be against it? I wouldn't. Then moving on from the Arrowhead Pride Snap Counts article, and I think that's the last of the... There's one more offensive line note. Running back snap counts. Running backs, Kareem Hunt, 66%, Samaje Perine, 23%, Carson Steele, 18%, were all in their normal ranges of use. But just like Kelsey and Gray, they don't tend as much toward running or passing plays. All season, Hunt has been a strong tendency for running snaps, while Perine has been used more often in passing plays. The reason I want this talking point in here is just this. Where does Isaiah Pacheco fit into this number system? Kareem Hunt is playing 66% of your snaps. Samaje Perine is playing 23% of your snaps. And Carson Steele is playing 18% of your snaps. I personally don't know. Especially when you look at the fact that Kareem Hunt has been the running downs running back. Samaje Perine has been the passing downs running back. Samaje Perine might be the passing downs running back when Isaiah Pacheco comes back. We know that Isaiah Pacheco was working on his receiving skills all offseason. We haven't really seen them through the course of his career. I don't know that he is a better blocker than is Samaje Perine. So Samaje Perine's 23% may hover 15 to 23%. Carson Steele, I think, is likely to get many fewer snaps, far fewer snaps. Carson Steele, if he remains on the team, that is a valuable roster spot that you're going to have 4 running backs. And then I don't know what you're doing with Clyde, right? I just don't know where that is. That's up in the air. So I would be more than receptive to your suggestions over a snap count percentage look once Isaiah Pacheco returns. It is difficult for me to believe that Isaiah Pacheco will not be the starting running back when he comes back. If you were to switch out Samaje Perine's productivity on his downs with Kareem Hunt's ability, and then put Isaiah Pacheco on the top of that totem pole, all of a sudden, everything looks a whole lot better. Samaje Perine has been decent in the receiving department, good, I would say, in the pass blocking department, but I don't know that his running, I don't know if it's worth a roster spot sometimes. So this is going to be a confusing series of players once Isaiah Pacheco does return to the lineup and ostensibly to the starting lineup. From Arrowhead Pride Snap Counts article, we get this as well. It looks like we can expect newly acquired defensive end Joshua Uche, 18% of the snaps, to get about 1 defensive snap in 5. Against Denver, he played exclusively on passing downs, while Herring played exclusively on running downs. O'Shea's snaps seemed to be cutting into some of the work normally given to George Karlaftis, 75% of snaps, who had been in the 63% of snaps in Week 9. He's typically on the field for 80 to 90% of reps. I think that's a positive. Getting George Karlaftis off the field a little bit more. We saw during his rookie season that there is a sweet spot of productivity for George Karlaftis in that 60 to 75% range of snaps. He really gets to maximize what it is that he does, whether that's because he is being used more on passing downs, whether that is because he is being able to take a breather on the sideline, whatever it is, I don't know. But we saw that during his rookie season, that was the point at which George Karlaftis was unlocked. And then his second year, he maintained that elevated level of play. So I think that getting George Karlaftis off the field a little bit more does make sense. Now, the pass rush has been non-existent. The Kansas City Chiefs are 26th in sacks this season. During their 2 Super Bowl runs, they were second in the league. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs are giving up 18.4 points per game prior to the Denver game. So it went down a little bit, but I haven't redone the math. Last season, the Chiefs defense gave up just 17 points per game. So they're going to be average. We'll say it's 18. The difference of a single point per game, despite the fact that you're not cashing in on the sacks, is mind-blowing. If O'Shea becomes a guy who has a good pass rush win rate, and Charles Omenihu comes back and destroys at the level that he was destroying last season prior to his injury, the Chiefs' defense suddenly becomes a defense that gives up 14 points a game. Like, the pass rush could be that meaningful of a game changer for the Chiefs. O'Shea's basically a speed guy, not the fastest guy in the world, but he's a speed guy around the edge. He's got some other moves, but I think that the suddenness off the ball is basically what's going to be getting him his sacks. George Karlaftis is the Night of the Living Karlaftis, kind of steady, undying pressure. Charles Omenihu is just a massive man who is able to push people backwards. And then you have Chris Jones, who's of that same ilk. Those 4 guys on the field in some configuration should help if it ever happens, right? There's so many ifs and what ifs and buts and, things going on with the Chiefs this season that it's difficult to really wrap your mind around. But if those 4 guys can get on the top of their game, it could help the Chiefs defense turn around the pass rush department. Why the Kansas City Chiefs have so miserably turned backwards in the pass rush department, I have no idea. And the final thing here from the film review from Arrowhead Pride, Chiefs offensive line struggled in win versus Broncos. The Chiefs offensive line allowed 12 pressures and 4 sacks of Mahomes, and the numbers could have been even higher if not for some timely scrambles and a few penalties down the field. Here's something I have to ask you, and be honest with me. Maybe I am misremembering things. Maybe I am absolutely wrong. 12 pressures and 4 sacks, but Mahomes was running around a lot, and there was a couple penalties. Does that or does that not sound like 2018? Does that or does that not sound like 2019? Now, between 2018 and 2019, there was 1 Super Bowl versus 2022 and 2023, there were 2 Super Bowls. And I understand that the wide receiver core does not have Tyreek Hill like it did in 2018, 2019. But guys, when you think of Mahomes, when you think of your favorite Patrick Mahomes plays, when you think of all the classic Magic Mahomes moments, he's running around. He has developed, perhaps, a case of happy feet this season, which is causing these errant throws. But is it really? Have you ever seen Patrick Mahomes really push off from a sound platform? I don't know that I have. I don't know if that's what is actually... I don't know if that is what is actually debasing this Kansas City Chiefs offense. I don't know that it's not. It seems that it would be. But it also seems like maybe it's the fact that there's a new wide receiver and 2 wide receivers have already gone down. There's a new starting running back. A running back has already gone down. The rookie tight end that they were bringing along went down. The veteran tight end that they signed to kind of try to kickstart things went down. I think there's just a whole lot of moving parts. Maybe you would be right, but you would be hard-pressed to convince me that Andrew Wiley would start along this offensive line. Maybe. I don't think I would cast him. I wouldn't chuck him in the starting lineup. So I think that part of 4 sacks is a bad game. It's not a disaster. 12 pressures, it's quite a few. It's not 20. You'll see those games this weekend. Someone giving up 20 pressures and 5 sacks. 6 sacks. It's a bad game. But it's a bad game that was kind of set up to be, like the guys on All Chiefed Up said, a trap game. It's a bad game with a division opponent, the head coach of which would love to beat the Kansas City Chiefs again, and had some special sauce cooked up just for the occasion. It's a bad game that comes with the 9th win of the year. So I think that, not great. I don't think that it's the disaster that it's being made out to be. I don't think that it is season ending for the Kansas City Chiefs. I do believe that the Kansas City Chiefs can win a Super Bowl with this offensive line. That's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.